Ukraine strikes back. Airbase hits, train disruptions, and Kerch Bridge blow. This is what we'll talk about today. We will talk about a lot of things. We will talk about the situation in the front and in Ukraine, a bit of what is happening in Russia, and so on. So it's lots of things to cover. And this video will be kind of like summary of the most important events recently. This video actually is a joke. The book called Bunker Life, sightseeing in Hague before the court. So this is kind of a meme, a joke on Putin. We will actually discuss how Ukraine is turning the tide, shattering illusions and utterly destroying Putin's war propaganda. In a stunning series of bold, high-precision, coordinated attacks, Ukrainian forces have done what few thought possible. First of all, Ukrainian forces struck Russian air bases deep inside Russia, showcasing the brilliance of Operation Spiderweb. This is Vasil Maluk, head of Security Service of Ukraine, during that Spiderweb security operation. As a result of this operation, one leg of Russia's nuclear triad reportedly destroyed. Train lines critical to military logistics disrupted, delaying troop movement and supplies. The Kerch Bridge hit again, or Crimean bridge some people call it, exposing a major strategic weakness. And as Roman Sheremeto pointed out, that the brilliance of the Operation Spiderweb wasn't just in technical execution or physical damage, it was in the psychological and economic disruption it's unleashed. What happened in this June? It's more than just military success of Ukraine, it's a huge psychological blow. Ukraine's unprecedented effectiveness has humiliated Putin and shredded Russian propaganda about invincible defenses. So this update explores what you didn't know and what comes next as sanctions tightened and battlefield movement shifts. We'll break down the tactics, the impact, and why the moment could refine the trajectory of the war. Hello there, I'm Elina, welcome back to my channel Enough of Propaganda. Please like, subscribe, share my videos, let's make truth available for everyone. I have plenty of videos on my channel, lots of playlists in English and in Russian, since I'm originally from Russia, and yet I stand with Ukraine because Ukraine in this war is right. This war is one of the very few clear-cut cases of pure, unprovoked aggression from another country, which is in this case one of my two countries, Russia. So I prove what I say. You can find video proofs on everything I say in my videos. Before we will talk about the topics I mentioned, there are lots of other things. First of all, we will start what is happening recently, the most recent kind of events, and one of them is 631 children killed by Russian army in Ukraine, since only the full-scale invasion. I remind you, especially for people who are new on the channel, that this war started in 2014, and since then, for over 11 years, Russia was killing Ukrainian people and Ukrainian children. This video is from Ukrainian President Zelenskyy from today, June 6. It is about massive combined airstrike on Ukraine. Over 400 drones, more than 40 missiles, about 45 missiles I can add, were launched by the Russians. 80 people were injured and some may still be under the debris. So this is what Russia is doing every day. Since the full-scale invasion started, and quite a bit was done before, since 2014. And Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, as well as Ukrainian people, are standing strong because they defending their home, defending their country. Ukraine didn't attack Russia, it is Russia who attacked Ukraine in 2014 and in 2022 and continues to do so to this day. Every day Vladimir Putin, Russian usurper, I can't call him a real Russian president, I don't see why anybody would, because Russia has never had real elections with Putin, so for over 20 years he's in power, he never had actual real elections, unlike President Zelenskyy of Ukraine, who was legally elected, and he is, according to all the laws of Ukraine, in power in Ukraine legally. Putin is not. And every day Putin is choosing to continue this war, killing Ukrainians and killing Russian people. This is actually the website of the Insider in English. There is in Russian and in English. They're not always the same, that's why I sometimes translate it myself, but you're welcome to check it out. This is translation of The Insider, one of the greatest, basically, investigative journalists in the world right now. It's about recent events. Basically, after Ukraine destroyed whole bunch of Russian planes we will talk about that a little bit later, that's why I won't talk about them just now. And Russia was supposed to do so-called retaliatory strike on Ukraine, which is Russia is never can do anything in retaliation. Russia is the aggressor. Russia is the one who is bombing Ukraine and killing Ukrainians. So anything Russia does, it's not in retaliation, it's aggression. And this is the information from the fronts. So I'll show you the map in English, but you're welcome to see also different information. I'll give you the link to, you will be able to see it in English. It's a Fedorovka, South Donetsk area where the Russians put the flag and then run away. Basically, this is the shelling of Kiev today. And Zelenskyy shared the result of that night shelling. Basically, strike hit not only Kiev, it's Volyn, Lviv, Ternopil, Sumy, Poltava, Khmelnytsky, Cherkasy, Chernihiv region. This is what happened in Kiev, and so on. This is Lutsk, Ukraine. The missiles flying into Lutsk. You're welcome to see it for yourself. And as well as other stuff. Many of it from Telegram channel and so on. This is already Russia. We will talk about it a little bit later. Let's look briefly on the map of Deep State, which is one of the most important and good maps of the battlefield in Ukraine. And let's see what is happening here. In the Toretsk direction, which is right here, Russian troops are trying to reach the Kleban-Byskaya reservoir south of Konstantinovka. Again, according to Deep State, in the Pokrovsk direction, Russian armed forces, basically, they say there are left only about 2 kilometers to administrative border of Dnipropetrovsk region, which is for Putin would be just a political victory, nothing more than that. But so many Russian troops already dead during those mid-wave attacks. In the southern Donetsk direction, Russian troops broke through to Kamar. This is a town called Kamar, mosquito basically, and began an offensive on Malinovka from Novozlatopol. This is south from Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is right here. Why I'm not talking much about the battlefield and showing them this map lately, it's just because there are two major types of war. War of attrition and maneuverable war. This is war of attrition. During the war of attrition, it doesn't really matter how many villages or fields you took, as Russia throwing lives of Russian soldiers just like garbage in mid-wave attack just to take some little teeny tiny town. None of this matters. The matters how much losses are. And Russian losses are horrendous. So during the war of attrition, the side who has more capability to continue fighting the war wins in the end. And the rest of the front may collapse completely and so on. This is why when some foreign journalist who doesn't know anything about military or anything like that, not like I'm a military expert, but I learn from the best military experts in the world, from Ben Hodges from the United States to the best Ukrainian generals and military experts, and as well as from whole the world, from France, from Sweden, from Israel, from any other country, the best military experts. I kind of watching maps and what is happening on the front every day, and I collect all the information, and only then I provide to you verified truth and the facts. And this is why this is not a point of major concern or anything. Just because Russians put flag in some sort of little village, It doesn't mean that the front collapsed and so on. Or so many whining about some incompetent journalists after, for example, Avdiivka fall, or that Pokrovsk gonna be taken. Pokrovsk has not been taken to this day. And even Toretsk, not completely taken until maybe recently, maybe something changed there. I haven't seen it yet. And Ukrainian front is strong and didn't collapse in any way. Putin can't achieve victory on the battlefield. This is why he's keep whacking civilians. This is the footage from current time, and this is Odeskaya region from June 5th, for example. And Russians are losing a lot of soldiers, and the loss is already close to 1 million. It's dead, wounded, and missing in action. Absolutely confirmed through BBC Russian service and Mediazona publication. 111,387 people dead in the war on the Russian side. And according to researcher Janis Kluge, the rate of recruitment of contract soldiers into Russian armed forces has fallen from approximately 1,400 people to 900 people per day. This is attack on Ukraine from today, June 6. Russia is a terrorist state. They keep attacking peaceful civilians in Ukraine every day. This is why, when everybody's so afraid of escalation, Putin is already doing everything he can to stop Ukraine on and win on the battlefield, and he failed. He's trying to threaten Ukrainian population by terrorist attacks like this, and he failed as well, because Ukrainians want to leave. They're not gonna stop defending themselves. On Russian territory, Ukraine drones hit an oil depot in Engels and helicopters in the Bryansk airport. Saratov region, where the Engels is, and another 11 regions of Russia got attacked by drones. And the reason of attacking on this oil base was that because there is a crystal oil storage where this kind of fuel, it's used as a fuel for Russian planes on the Engels airbase, which was hit by Ukraine in the past as well. Let's talk about Ukrainian Operation Spider's Web. This is a historical event, a major event. And we will look at it very closely. I may say something you may never heard before, but many of you probably know a lot about it already. But I'm trying to preserve it for the history and for the future, because this is huge. This is the destruction of many Russian planes, important planes. And Russia will not be able to either fix them or produce new ones. It's just impossible in some cases. Let's summarize what happened before. This is the footage from the Operation Spider's Web. But let's look at everything. And I agree with Mr. Gerashenko, Ukrainians are incredible. And he's right. Ukraine Defense Forces are writing history with their innovation, ingenuity, and intelligence. And they should be proud of this. This is a major event. In this war, I can point out, as well as Gerashenko did, that there are a lot of things happen which never happened before in history. And every time we say this is the first time in history. For example, destroying a warship with a naval drone. Destroying a submarine with a missile, cruise missile. Shooting down Russian drones using Ukrainian drones. Destroying a helicopter from a naval drone. Destroying a fighter jet with a naval drone. Destroying strategic bombers with FPV drones. And he said to be continued. I'm sure I agree with him. Ukraine will continue to defending themselves and create and achieve something unimaginable. Include, I can add to this, that Ukraine, the country without navy, destroyed basically a huge chunk of Russian Black Sea fleet and threw them out of Crimea, make them run away for the hills to the Novorossiysk Russian port, and so on. This is all incredible achievements of Ukraine. Ukrainian secret services, this is airport Alenia. So they kind of waited until Russians started to lie, and then they posted a lot of footage in a good quality and so on showing what happened, how it happened. This is Diaghilevo report, and so on. And so you're welcome to see this. This is in a good quality, good footage. This is absolutely true. Ukraine has brought the war to a new level. And the spiderweb operation showed that this is possible to destroy an aircraft worth more than $100 million with a $600 drone, which means anything can be destroyed the same way. And I could say that some Russian planes, like those radar early warning system planes, they could cost about $300 million. And 600 drone, not $1 million drone, just $600 drone or $1,000 drone can destroy this. Ukraine did it because they are fighting for their freedom, for their survival. Ukraine fought propaganda, pro-Russian propaganda about mighty Russian army. This is what those planes which Ukraine destroyed. In case many of you didn't know, Ukraine hit several Russian airbases at the same time. Many of them really far away. And I'll show you on the map where they are just in a minute. But this is basically how it happened. But this is what these planes was doing to Ukrainian civilians, to peaceful people who lives in their homes. And the planes which were hit, many of them as part of the Russian nuclear triad, basically. And Ukraine trying to... This is actually attack on Ahmadiet hospital. This was just missile you saw. I posted it in my video about children's hospital destroyed by Russia. And so on. So, these planes, many of them were fully fueled, full of missiles and bombs attached. They were ready to go and whack Ukraine, right in front of the so-called peace talks and so on. So when they were hit, there was huge kaboom because they were already full of fuel and loaded. Ukraine prevented them from doing this. This is valid military targets were destroyed by Ukraine. This is what it was. Ukraine had full rights to do so, and they did. This is Telegram channel Okagora, a news and analysis. This is Airbase Belaya. It's Irkutsk region, I believe. And so there are 4 of them were hit. When you saw the picture of Maluk on looking at the map, it was about 5 of them was planning to hit. But one of them, apparently there is some information that the truck blew up on the road and it didn't get to those air bases. And but this is the damage what I seen recently. Airbase Belaya 6222 M3 destroyed, and 4295. In Diaghilevo 3222 M3 destroyed. Ivanova 2 A50, that's the planes I was talking about for the early warning. There are only few of them in Russia, roughly 6 maybe. So 2 of them destroyed and 1 was destroyed earlier. And some of them in the not fixed, not flying condition. So maybe 1 or 2 of them left. And Russia can't produce them anymore, it's impossible. And Airbase Alenia 4 295s, 1 and 12 and 3 222 M3s. So basically 12 222 M3s, 8 295s, 2 A50s, and 1 in 12. 23 planes, which analytics just confirmed completely for sure. I have seen 23 roughly, but Ukraine claims it is like 41, and I agree with Ukraine. And confirmations we probably will see more and more very soon. So I monitor lots of OSINT analytics who actually completely verify with geolocation and everything. So when they publish something, it's like Perpetua, for example, this means for sure. The attack on air bases was very hard. This is what Siberia Reality, Radio Liberty writing. It was a very hell. The first drone attack on Siberia. And this lots of information I translated, well, it's kind of automatically translated into English. If you would like to see that, this would be a lot of information in one place for you, in English. Just for you to see, this is Ukraine. And this is one of the bases was hit, Alenia, in Murmansk region. And this is another airbase in Belaya, Irkutsk region. I am myself from Irkutsk region. This is the famous Baikal Lake. And I lived somewhere over here. And it's hard to watch Russia getting hit. But nothing I can do. Russia and Putin chooses every day continue this war. Nobody attacked Russia. Nobody wants to get Russia. It's up to Putin to stop the war. He can stop it immediately. Russians can make him stop the war, but many of them can't and many of them choose not to. A little bit about how this operation was conducted, the Spiderweb special operation. So basically drones were packed into special boxes, and these boxes were put on top of the trucks in nearby from Russian FSB actually office. They rented storage, and everything was automatically opening, and the drones were just flying out of containers because the trucks drove those containers to the military air bases and then released the drones. I want to emphasize that sources said that individuals involved in the historic operation have returned to Ukraine a long time ago. So if now Putin will start it, arrests and stuff like that, it's just a performance to show Russians that he's doing something. Meanwhile, the drones just flew out of those containers and hit air bases. When Russians came to investigate, the containers self-destructed. In this article, for example, from June 4th, Operation Spiderweb, satellites confirm 15 destroyed Russian aircraft. Drone footage shows up to 23 most strategic bombers. And with a lot of footage, an insider showed before and after in the what bombers, where they were and so on, what airfields and stuff like that. And more footage of the attack on Anton Gerashchenko, in Anton Gerashchenko post. A lot of it confirmed by the Russians themselves. This guy, by the way, now Solovyov demanding execution of people like him. It's a famous Russian propagandist. Famously, he kinda as famous as Goebbels, Russian Goebbels. Demanding to kill this young fellow just because he published things how it is. That the planes are burning. This is another Russian posted.
И таких еще 7 штук.
This is of course massive embarrassment for Putin. This is why he's trying to hide it. Evidence appeared that Russia is trying to diminish the number of aircraft destroyed, damaged during Operation Spiderweb. For example, on June 2nd, a damaged Tu-95 is visible on satellite images. On June 4th, it's replaced with intact one. And this is a lines of the trucks, which Russia are checking out now because of the drones attack on the air bases. So on top of everything, now it's basically plugged Russian roads and destroyed basically logistics and so on. So this is another effect of brilliant Ukrainian Spiderweb operation. And this is channel Pan Pachkovsky. This is Russia, and it wasn't bombed. This is where Russian strategic aviation takes off from, bombing peaceful cities in Ukraine. How do you like Russian world on video? Asking Pan Pachkovsky. There it is. And this wasn't bombed. This is Russian normal life. This is Alenia, he claims, where one of the airports, which was just hit, happens.
Центр города. Вот.
And this was downtown, he said. I lived in Siberia, in the USSR. We didn't have much and we were flying by helicopter at the time because the road wasn't built. Later they built railroad and so on. It was not look like that. It was way better. This is what Putin turned my country into. This is how Russia looks like in some places. So June 1st, 2025 will be a historical day because 34% of Russia's strategic aviation, cruise missiles carriers, worth about $7 billion were hit by today's spiderweb attack, Security Service of Ukraine says. But it's more than $7 billion, because Russia can't replace them. I'll provide all the information so you can save it for your own records, because this is historical event. These planes are valid military target, and Ukraine destroyed them. It took a long time of preparing, years, and over a year anyways, but Ukraine did it. This is a major achievement. It will be written in history, in textbooks, and in military textbooks, how to do stuff like that. And this is not all. On June 4th, new information came up. IT experts from the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine have hacked resources of Russian United Aircraft Company Tupolev, who producing two planes. It's named after Tupolev, the constructor. It's a Russian company who produced strategic bombers and passenger aircrafts and so on. And it is reported that Defense Intelligence monitored the company's documents flow for a long time, resulting in accessing more than 4.4 gigabytes of critical data. We have obtained exhaustive information about persons directly involved in the maintenance of Russian strategic aviation. The website of the Tupolev company was hacked, and an image of an owl, Defense Intelligence mascot, with a Russian aircraft in its claws appeared there. So this is what Ukrainians posted on Russian Tupolev website. Unbelievable. Ukraine achieved so much, it's just amazing. In the next day, the Ukrainian Armed Forces and Security Services of Ukraine struck Russian Iskander missile systems. A unit of Russian Army's 26th Missile Brigade, based in Klintsy area of Russia's Bryansk region, attempted to launch strike on Ukraine, probably on Kiev. As a result, one Russian missile launcher detonated and two others were most likely damaged. Now let's talk about trains. At the same time, roughly June 1st and right before that, several attacks on the Russian railroads were conducted, and some of it happened on its own. Two bridges collapsed in Bryansk and Kursk regions of Russia last night, so night on June 1st, damaging a passenger and freight trains. Russian authorities said they were blown up. They actually changed their mind after that, they removed that, and so on. In Bryansk region, a bridge collapsed as a passenger train was going under it. Well, this is a bit old post because train actually wasn't going under it. First bridge collapsed and then train ran into it. Unfortunately, it was a passenger train. About 7 people get killed. And this is terrible because the death of any civilians is always a tragedy. But there is more to the story, and I'll tell you in a minute. In Kursk region, another bridge collapsed as a cargo train was moving on it. One of the locomotive engineers damaged his legs in the incident, and so on. Also was another one, happened in Zaporizhia region, I think, in Ukraine somewhere. Another train was hit. That freight trains were military targets, and they were most likely destroyed by Ukraine. As to this type of stuff, this is not necessarily Ukraine, and I'll explain you why. Famous Russian journalist Alexander Nevzorov, which I mentioned to you about this man in several of my videos. He was basically the star in the USSR when, during Perestroika, Nevzorov and other people from the team, they were kind of together. They telling us the truth about what is happening. And finally, after silence of the USSR, when the government was only dictating government news what to tell to Russian people, that's why we never heard of if the train get derailed and this and that. I told you about this in one of my videos and several of my videos about that, how much information was hidden from people. So Nevzorov has a video, which is, and also on his Telegram channel, he provided information about that bridge in Bryansk which collapsed and actually killed civilians. That much more earlier, even as early as May 25th, was lots of complaints about terrible condition of the bridge. From the concrete to any construction damages and stuff like that, and people were expecting something gonna happen. And it was continued for years. But instead of spending money to fixing the bridge, Russian government was fighting war in Ukraine. Aggressive war. So it is highly likely that the bridge just collapsed because of the truck was going on top of it. Maybe Ukraine even has nothing to do with this, except for Russia fighting war in Ukraine and all the money going there. But it could be Ukraine because about 10 minutes before that, before the bridge collapsed, there was another train going by, which was a train with the military equipment and so on. So until then, we don't know who did it for sure, but Putin fighting a war in Ukraine did not help. Many bridges in many other places in Russia are basically collapsing because nobody investing money in it, nobody fixing things, because all the money is going on to the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Putin had the nerve to talk about terror on Ukrainian side just because of his negligence and aggressive war, some bridge collapse and kill people. Then, and after doing everyday attacks on Ukraine, he's gonna talk about terror and trying to justify that he doesn't want peace and explain to people, oh, it's because Ukraine did this. If you want to talk about terror, this is Russians posting the videos of bombs falling in the center of Kherson, the city which Russia captured, was the only regional capital which Russia captured and then had to leave. And actually Putin made it in the Russian constitution that Kherson is Russia. So Russia bombing, according to Russia, their own city. A sleeping city, downtown, and they just bombing them. Nothing unites Russian more than murder and genocide, said Morales Caimentum. And they are stupid enough to show their war crimes themselves. If Putin wants to talk about big bad word, started on T, here it is. These are Ukrainian cities destroyed and wiped off the face of the planet by Russia. And Putin dared to whine to Trump about it. They attack my planes, the ones I used to bomb their civilians. How could they? I was deeply outraged and upset. Not only just because of these Trump words, like two kids fighting. I'd love to see some Americans who, I know Americans, they're good people and love their children like everybody else. Watching, if it would be just children, watching their children fighting. One of them just broke the nose of another one, and the parent would say, way to go, Johnny! See, my broke yours nose. And the other one would say, oh, and my grab the stick and poke yours in the eye, and your son now doesn't have an eye. Good job, Matthew, continue! But in this case, it's not even children fighting. This is Russian unprovoked aggression on Ukraine. And the goal of Russian aggression, destroy Ukraine, wipe them off the planet. So there is nothing Ukraine done to deserve this. So this is outright Russian propaganda. And another thing was very upsetting, that Trump posted that post of his after Trump, the leader of the free world basically, the leader of the United States, crawl on their knees and call Putin, and maybe Putin called him, but it was understandable that he talked to Putin, and trying to appease Putin and say, yeah, you have to, if you're retaliating. He didn't say anything about retaliation in his first post. Only later on, when it wasn't look good, Trump started to say, well, I told him, Vladimir, don't do this and this and that. Nothing of that was in his original post. He's basically worked like, instead of Peskov, it was Putin press secretary, delivering Putin message, Putin threat to the world. I was outraged and disgusted by that. Bear with me for a little longer, this is not the end. Ukraine strike the Crimean bridge, the Kerch Bridge, again, and underwater. Another major success of Ukraine intelligence. This is a major achievement of Ukraine. And actually, the charge underwater will be amplified and so on. Russia is hiding the damage of the bridge and trying to use it again. But the bridge is damaged. But when did Russia and Putin cared about Russian people? If the bridge will collapse and some people will die, well, who cares? Ukraine actually did care. They actually pretend to have a drone attack. So people and Russians closed the bridge. So Ukrainians were thinking about not killing Russian civilians. And they did that so bridge would be empty. But Putin didn't care. He will continue to use the bridge. And then said, oops, something happened. More information on that from Chuck Farrer, which I very much respect, and I have him in several of my videos. He's former SEAL Team 6 squadron leader and special correspondent of Kiev Post. So he wrote a lot of stuff about many things, and include that Crimean Kerch Bridge attack. He wrote an article for Kiev Post as well, with big analysis on that, and you are welcome to read this and watch some of his videos and so on. And learn more about Marishka, Ukraine underwater, uncrewed underwater vehicle, capable of kamikaze attack against Russian naval targets. In the end, I want to comment on some changes in Ukrainian military leadership, and this is famous Ukrainian military commander-in-chief of the ground forces of Ukraine, Mikhailo Drapati. He has been appointed commander of the joint forces. And the famous Robert Brody Magyar has been appointed commander of the unmanned system forces of armed forces of Ukraine. He is very famous and legendary, basically, drone unit commander. Good for Ukraine. Meanwhile, useless American alcoholic Defense Secretary Hexes skips Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting. First Pentagon chief in 3 years to do so. Russian puppets and useful idiots abroad are helping Putin. There is somewhat hope that Senator Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal, they prepared some sort of a bill about helping Ukraine and the sanctions on Russia, bone-crushing sanctions. But I wouldn't have high hopes for that, since Trump already talked to Putin. And after that he started to pressure senators, please don't do that just yet. So far, Trump did nothing to help Ukraine. Luckily, he didn't stop completely the help and support, but Ukraine didn't even bother to share with him that Operation Spiderweb. They didn't use United States intelligence for that, because they know it's gonna be leaked to Russia. So, we will see what senators will do. They actually, over 80 senators, about 82 or 81, agree with them, so they probably will be able to override Trump decision about giving aid to Ukraine. If Trump will put veto on it, they can override it with that amount of people, senators. But they maybe will just wait until Trump will allow them. So, please help Ukraine. Please donate to Ukrainian army. Don't wait until somebody from above, like Trump or senators or so on, do something. Ukrainians are dying every day, for no reason whatsoever besides Putin's imperial ambitions. Please help Ukraine.
И это тоже Россия. И даже
This is Russia, and this is Russia, and this is Ukraine. For those who don't understand how everything works, the country has borders. The government is responsible for what happens within the borders. Neighboring countries can either jump for freedom or live in dictatorship. It's their business. It's not the reason to start aggressive war just because, in Russian opinion or Putin's opinion, Ukraine is doing something wrong. This is Russia, and Russia has lots of stuff to do in their own country without sticking their nose into the internal affairs of independent country of Ukraine. Russia should fix its own problems and stop fighting unnecessary, absolutely useless and dangerous war in Ukraine. Aggressive war. Fascist war. This is why I stand with Ukraine. Being Russian and Canadian citizen, I stand with Ukraine. Please help Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Learn the truth and stay informed. See you later.